What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the WRWI Podcast with your host, Tim Murphy, and with nobody else today. It's Sunday afternoon. I felt like hopping on the mic and getting some words out. So today, what I got for you is we're going to talk about the difference between your marathon runs, your ultra runs, and your half marathons down to your 5Ks. I don't have crazy experience with the ultras. I've done a couple 50Ks, 50-mile race, and I had a failure or a dropout, whatever you want to call it. I was a loser in a 100-mile race. Made it to mile 58. I'll dive into that too. But the start, over the past years, I've been getting into running. I did the half marathon years ago. Then the marathon, then the 50K, then the 50-mile race. I progressed pretty quickly, like probably you shouldn't do. But regardless, lessons learned along the way is getting into the ultra racing to start with. Ultra racing, I think the biggest mistake I made getting ready for ultras was running fast at all during training. For the ultras, what works for me, at least, getting ready for the ultras is just 4 long 60 to 2 hour runs, 60-minute to 2 hour runs, 4 days a week, and then you can throw in one speed day if you really want. But the ultras, the biggest thing is just getting time on your feet. And then it's that boring zone 2 talk that everybody talks about. And again, this is for the people out there that just want to do well in an ultra and finish the race. I'm not giving you a formula here to win the Leadville 100. Obviously, there would be more variables into that. You would definitely throw in probably 2 days. I would throw in 2 days of speed work and 3 days of long runs if that was the case, to get your body used to being able to speed it up and also handling all the load that you're putting on your body at that point and putting on your feet. So, first 50K for me was in Western Mass. It was I think it was called the Chesterfield Gorge. It was a cool run. It was two loops out and back along the river, and it went pretty well for me. Not mile 28, I started to get oh man, I've gone so far. I still have 3 miles. And then you look back and you realize it was just your mind playing tricks on you. The 50-mile race was also in Western Mass, a little more west, Pittsfield, Mass, at the Pittsfield State Park, which was gorgeous, right on the New York border. And that day, I just gotta be honest, I did some, a bunch of like weeks where I had like 15-mile training runs a couple days a week while working in the summer heat. So I definitely felt like ready to go, but I didn't feel like I put in an extreme amount of work. And for some reason that day, I don't know what it was, but we ran with it because I placed second. It took me 11 hours. There was a lot. I think it was 16,000 feet of elevation total in the 50 miles, but it was a lot of hiking straight uphill for some of the course. So you didn't get to run the whole thing. It wasn't a flat ultra, which I know most of them aren't, but it was a lot more terrain than the first 50K I did. Even the 50K Spartan race I did too. It was a lot more terrain than that. Which was fun. I'd rather that. But that day I had started, that was 2 years ago at this point, I had started to really nail in the diet for the racing at that point, which I hadn't. That was my biggest problem in the years past, was, getting in. I'm a chickpea pasta guy the night before, and then sticking with just ground turkey. I keep it plain, I keep it simple. My body knows what it needs, and then I'm like a peanut butter and banana bar on like protein bar on the day of races, and I pretty much stick with stuff like that. Very bland rice cakes with peanut butter. But before this, I wasn't really even eating anything at all, and I definitely wasn't hydrating enough, and I definitely was not getting enough sodium or electrolytes in. So, if you take anything from this and you're getting in a long distance, work your hydration and your diet. I'm not a big gel guy just because they don't really go well with my stomach, but like part of your training runs when you're getting into marathon training and you're getting into ultra training, part of it should be getting in some calories while you're doing your, if you have a 20-mile training run or a 2-hour training run that day, every 40 minutes or so. Eat a little something, drink, make sure you're hydrating to get your body used to. I mean, like if you sign up for a 50K, it could be 5 hours, it could be 7, 8, 9 hours of going that day. So you want your body to get used to taking in calories while it's moving, or on race day when you haven't gone that far and you have no choice but to get calories in because you're at such a deficit. It's gonna be a struggle. Been there, done that, learned the hard way, like we all do. That's why we do the podcast world and put stuff out there to try and help out. Anyways, where was I going? So yeah, I would say, diet, hydration. Like I said, it's a whole. Once you get into ultras and you're not trying to rip a course record, even if you are trying to rip, obviously hydration and nutrition is huge. But I just mean, like, if you're someone who's getting into the game or who's been in the game for a little while and just wants to improve, the biggest thing is getting miles under your feet and getting the nutrition dialed in way before race day. Like, you should know a month before what your stomach agrees with on long runs, what you can eat and drink the night before, that morning, etc. Blah blah blah. Like, just get your body used to it and then stick with it on race day. Don't go up and see a dang, I don't know, cheeseburger with peanut butter on it or something weird and start eating it. Although that doesn't sound bad. So there's my ultra rant. Now, my opinion on the marathon races, I'm not gonna get into too much because there's so much stuff out there about the marathons. I mean, and it's a similar to what I was just saying about the ultras. You still have to worry about hydration, nutrition if you're someone who's going to be out there for 3+ hours, which is 90+% of people running probably. And again, I'm not really going to touch into the science behind everything, just because, one, I am not an elite runner running a 2:10 marathon, so I can't speak on that. I can just share, the guy coming from a 3:15 marathon time who likes to run on the weekends. So I'm not going to get into it too much, just because I feel like that's the most talked about subject out there. But I mean, similar to the ultras, as I was getting at, diet, nutrition, lock all that stuff in. Definitely, like salt. Yeah, like I do like Element. I don't know. We run with it, fitness and nutrition. We'll also be getting a hydration packet out soon, so I'm just plugging that in there. But back to the podcast. I like Element. I like getting the sodium in. It just made it, honestly, I can feel it in my brain when I'm dehydrated and I'm running. It's almost like a brain fog, and then you drink Element and you feel a lot better. So I would say start with that. It doesn't have to be that. You could just honestly throw some salt into a water bottle and have that while you're going in your training runs. And then marathons get more specific, which is why I didn't want to dive into it too much. I just want to do like an overall talk today about the difference, just because, like, if you're running a 2:30 marathon and under, you don't have to worry too much about what you're drinking and eating while you're running, just because you're ripping so fast. you're getting it done so fast, you can take in the minimal amount to get through that 2 hours and 30 minutes, and then you're done. But for most of the people out there doing 3 plus, 4 plus, 5 hour marathons, by the third hour, your body is going to need something. So that's where it's the same as ultras. Is you should practice on your, if you have a 2 hour training run, anything going on, you should really practice getting the calories in on your runs, getting your hydration in on your runs, making sure your body is used to all that on race day. If you're running your first marathon in training, be that person that does a lot of zone 2, does a day or two of speed work a week, but just let your body slowly get used to the miles. I mean, obviously, if you're someone who is in the past jumped into things and been able to let it rip and you want to do it, I'm not here to tell you otherwise. I'm just here to tell you what I did, and I did not listen, and I jumped in way too fast. And I mean, my first marathon was 4:17, and then 6 months later I ran a 3:15. So it was a hour jump in a 6 month time frame, but I just absolutely destroyed. Like I don't know if I tore it, but I definitely pulled my hamstring. I felt like I tore my hip flexor. I was down and out for like 2 months after, or at least a month after that 3:15 marathon, and then for like 2 months I still didn't feel right. I had to do a crap ton of rehab and strengthening the glutes and everything else around it, and then starting to do mobility, which is something I never did. So this is also a reminder to get your mobility in and get your band working, get your hip working, get your glute working, get your hip flexor working. Just had to throw that all in there in case people are listening and they're struggling with that, because I never used to. I hated. Who likes stretching or doing mobility really? But I'm telling you, it's life changing. So that's my rant about the marathons. Now, getting to the shorter races, like the half marathon to 5K. 5K obviously is something where if you want a fast time, you still have to put in a decent amount of zone 2 to zone 3 work to get your body used to. Like, I know it's like a 3.1 mile race when you're someone who runs long distance doesn't seem like a lot, but if you can go for a 10-mile run day after day after day, get your body used to that, and then you do speed work on top of that during the week, your body is gonna run. You take a couple days off after doing work like that, your body's gonna run that 5K like it's absolutely nothing, and then that's time to mix in tempos, mix in this, mix in that. I mean, obviously it depends on if you're a blue collar worker, if you're doing a strenuous job all day, if you're in the office or sitting around. Sometimes that's even worse. I've had both kind of jobs. I've been blue collar since high school, but I've had a job where I was management for years. So I honestly think it feels better that I move my body every day, so I'm not just sitting around and letting it get tight. That's just my personal opinion, though. What else we got? We got on the half marathon. Honestly, it's kind of a distance I skimped over. If I'm gonna be completely honest with the audience, I know what to do for the half marathon, but I've only ran 2 of them. And what I gotta say is, it's very, very similar to a marathon prep. In the sense of, if you want to run a fast half marathon, it's going to look very similar to a marathon prep. If we're going back to you're someone with a full-time job, you just want to go out and be able to run, a 2 hour or whatever average time half marathon, or even get better, but not, your whole life isn't depending on you running an hour and 10-minute half marathon. I would do something similar to like 3 to 4, 3 zone 2s a week at, do a 8-mile long run one weekend, then 9, then 10, then 11, then 12, then 13. and give yourself time to build up and then build back down. I would build back down all the way to 7 before, like, start at 7, go up to 13, go back down to 7. There's your prep, and land at that 7 2 weeks before, or the weekend before race day, and then just get a couple 3-mile runs in that week and go let it rip. What else for the half marathon? Like I said, it's been so long since I really only done a prep. I just did the Ironman, which I won't get into that today for what I did for prep wise. But I'm training for High Rocks now, which honestly kind of feels like a half marathon prep in the sense of I'm getting a lot of 8 to 10 mile runs in. Or I shouldn't say a lot, but I'm making sure I get one fast 8 to 10 mile run in a week, and then one slow 8 to 10 mile run in a week, and then mixing in a bunch of like 400s or 800 repeats or 1 kilometer repeats, stuff like that. So I'm kind of liking the High Rocks training now, so maybe I will rip a half marathon soon now that I'm talking about it. And then, what else? Oh yeah, I kind of started talking about the 5K and then went straight to the half marathon. Bear with me in the future, my future fans, if we run with it, because I can jump around, so you got to stay with me here. That's why I'm going to get guests on, so they can do most of the talking. But we'll end with the 5K. The 5K, like I said, I do love training for. And also, like I mentioned, if you want to have a really good, like, say you want to do a 2 or 3 month prep for a 5K, and you're someone who's, an average runner who's put miles on before or has consistently been running for years, I would start with your long run being 6 miles, work up to a 10 mile, go back down to 6. And then in those weeks, I would do 2 days, like 1 day of a tempo, or you could call it like a fartlek, like just go out for 4 miles, do a half-mile warm-up, pick a telephone pole, sprint in between those, and then give yourself a couple telephone pole break, and then sprint, and just do that for 3 miles, and then do a half-mile cool down. And then I do another day at the track where you're doing speed work, and then, like I said, just throw in 2 or 3 days of zone 2 where you're doing the 6 to 10 mile range, because doing that at zone 2, like I said, it's just gonna make, when you give your body a rest day or 2 after having weeks like that, you're gonna notice a huge difference when you just go to run 3 miles. It feels like a walk in the park. I mean, obviously when you're on race day and you're sprinting the whole time for 3.1 miles, that's a different feeling because you're going all out. But, I mean, when you go back and start running at what the old pace you used to run a 5K at, it feels a lot better, which is ultimately what we're going for. It's not necessarily about crushing a PR every single time. It's more about feeling better and more comfortable while you're running, and not constantly injuring yourself, which, now that I'm talking out loud and saying it, I'll do an episode on, I'm going to try and get someone on here instead of just me. The little rundown for me is like I was talking about after I built up mileage too quick and then ripped my hamstring and hip flexor. I had a buddy of mine that owns a gym, Brick by Brick Training Systems in Haverhill, Mass. His name's Niles. He helped me out a lot, strengthen my hip flexors, strengthen my glutes, strengthen everything around, do some work, some random stretches for the IT band, and then do some mobility work. So I'll go over that on the episode, but I promise I'm going to have someone on for a whole mobility clip, because it's something I never did, and something that honestly probably set me back a year or 2, because I was so tight and kept injuring myself that I worked myself to the point where my body had no choice but to take time off. And if I had been doing mobility the whole time, and then strengthening those muscles that we forget about, rather than just, the squats, the deadlifts, the bench press, then, it just keeps you healthy. We're still going to get aches. We're still going to get pains. You're still going to get injured every once in a while. It's life. But I mean, like, an overall healthy running is fun running, And that doesn't mean you're not going to be sore. It doesn't mean you're not going to be hurt every once in a while. It just means for the majority of the time, you feel healthy. You don't feel beat to crap, which is something that runners are pretty dang good at. And I'm here to a testimonial, if you will, to say it doesn't need to be like that. And I get the mindset of it. It is fun to just dog it out, but it's not always necessary. So, real quick, I forgot to talk about my 100-mile experience real quick. That was something I'd ran. It sounds a little silly. I'd ran 30 miles a week all winter long in New England for like 4 months straight at this point. So in my head, I'm thinking, when I signed up for it, I know I'm not doing a lot here, but sorry, just thought the thing stopped recording. My bad. I didn't have a stroke. Anyways, getting back to it. Yeah, so I was really only doing like between 30 and 40 miles a week all winter. And then I don't know, in my brain I just thought with that compounding over time I'd be all right. And then I had 1 week where I just said screw it, and I ran 70 something miles that week. And then so that gave me the confidence, like, oh, I got this. And then race day came. And, yeah, I got it thunderstormed, so the course was complete mud, which honestly, I wouldn't have made it regardless. And, it just made it way more slippery. And then what happened was my knees started locking up at like mile 50, and then I came to a section where I couldn't, walking uphill wasn't too bad. Walking downhill, I had to start walking backwards downhill because my knees felt like they were just going to give out. And, yeah, I don't know. I did that for a couple miles. I was at like 40-minute miles at this point, and it's like 8 p.m. And I just put everything together. And, I had ran 50 miles in 12 hours, and then I was doing 40-minute miles. So I would have been there for a couple days, put it that way. I don't think I would have made the cutoff time after my knees locked up. So I will do a 100-mile race in the next year. I promise you guys that. And I'm actually going to build mileage this time. So we can have a cool chat about it after I finish the race. But, yeah. So, again, wrapping up what I talked about at first with the ultras. Not crazy experience. The 50-mile race, or 50-mile distance, I should say, I think is really cool to do, because it's something where if you're working full time, or you have a somewhat busy schedule, which is again 90% of people. Just some have more free time than others. But if you're someone who's working and who's busy, and it's like it's not something where you want it to be all consuming, but something where you want it to be challenging, that's why I like the 50-mile distance, because it's you can train 50-mile weeks, 60-mile weeks, and not be too logged out from it or brain fogged from it. Once you start getting past the 50, 60-mile weeks and you gotta show up for work 5-6 days a week, it's, at least for me, I might be David Goggins might yell at me, but it starts just getting rough and affecting my work. So there's a fine balance, I guess, for me at this point in life. If I find a job where I'm not physically working all the time, maybe I'll come back on here and change my mind. I don't know, but I just wanted to get on here today anyway. I'm going to wrap this up and rant on everybody. I just wanted to get on Sunday afternoon. I wanted to get on the podcast. I want to get time on the mic. So if you're still listening, I applaud you. Thank you. Thanks for the support. And yeah, It was good. It's good to get on here. I want to get some practice before I get the real guests on. So I hopefully don't sound like I did today. But anyways, it's Sunday. It's that kind of day. Get out there. Move with it. Monday morning comes. Wake up with it. Run with it. Lift with it. Get in the mindset of whatever you're doing. Just do it all. Give it all. Give it all you got. So, God bless. Happy Sunday. Have a good Monday. Get out there and fucking get after it. Peace. We're out.